So I do also have two children's books introducing the Métis people because I have a Métis heritage, and my grandmother was the first Métis female senator in the federal government of Canada, and one of her life goals was to just educate people about the Métis, and so I just wanted to continue her dream. That's kind of my passion project. And those books actually won the best of state for children's books because it's just such a wonderful thing when you learn about new people and their traditions and culture and the beauty in it.
You got two children's books. How is that different than novels? I mean, that's like a different animal to me, And what
Yeah,
you do about
that was
illustrating and all of that, that's you've got to illustrate that.
well, I've always kind of had this in the back of my mind since my grandmother passed away. And she was a senator, and like I said, in the federal government of Canada. Her name was Thelma Chalifoux, and she went all over the world. She met heads of state. She, had lunch with the Queen of England. She met all these wonderful, amazing, world leaders. But her sole purpose was to fight for the rights of the people who don't have a voice, for the minorities, for those who are overlooked, and not only women, but people like the Métis people. They've had a really hard time because they're half European, half Native American, I guess, is what Americans would call them. In Canada, they're called First Nations. And so they were, given horrible names like half breed. Their children were taken from them so that they could be schooled and look more like white people, just this horrible history. But she really wanted to focus on the beauty of the Métis culture. And so I thought, what better way to do that, to introduce them to the Michif language of the Métis people and these beautiful culture items like a ribbon skirt that the women wear, because the women are very important in that culture and they're the knowledge keepers in that culture, which is something, kind of not very done in a lot of other cultures. So anyway, I've had that in the back of my mind for a lot of years. And then I saw an article in my local newspaper that Mikey Brooks was an illustrator who had won the award, the Best of State Award, for a diverse children's book with a different nationality. And I thought, I'm going to look him up. So I did. And he was absolutely an amazing illustrator. He researched the Métis people. He made sure his art and his illustration were very authentic to that culture. I mean, some of the Métis leaders that read my book thought he was Métis. That's how amazing he did. He did this whole, it's like a blue swirl through the whole book with Métis cultural art. I mean, it was just amazing. So anyway, he did the illustrations, and my job was to just introduce them to the traditions. So I have this little Métis girl named Thelma, and she's the main character in both books. One's a Christmas book, and one is just a fun story about a Métis story that's illustrated that Thelma's dad is telling to her, because storytelling is also big in that culture. So it's just a fun way to introduce the language, introduce the beauty and the cultures and traditions of this people that means so much to my family. And, it's just been an amazing experience for sure.
That's cool. I love to support authors that are doing innovative children's books, and I end up sending those to my grandkids for Christmas and their birthdays and encourage them to read, but
Yeah,
also to get exposure to these unique ideas that people with good
yeah.
messages that come across in the children's books.
That's right. The Michif language is dying, actually, and so we're trying to preserve it. And there's a lot of people that are trying to preserve it. So I love that I was able to use Michif words in the book and just kind of expose people to this, beautiful language that we don't want to go away.
Well, in the US, that was one of the first things they tried to root out of the indigenous peoples was their language, because with their language goes their traditions and their I would try to
Yep.
morph them. So I'm assuming that probably happened there too, huh?
Yep, that's exactly what happened there. So, yep,
Yeah.
we've got to save these beautiful languages for sure. And just give them a voice when they were, oppressed for so long. Let's give them a voice and show the beauty that they've created in this culture.
I love it.